Today Richard and I are going to be talking about suicide prevention in the schools. And right here you have our workshop outline. We're going to begin with a quick review of some statistics, sort of lay the stage for the magnitude of this problem. Move on into discussion of suicide prevention, and we're speaking here primarily of primary prevention efforts. And then suicide risk assessment. About that time, when we get through risk assessment, we hope to be giving you a break. So, look at your watches. About an hour and a half from now, we plan to give you a 15-minute break. After the break, we'll get back together, and Rich will conclude our session with the discussion of school-based suicide intervention and suicide postvention. Our goals for our time together relate to those 5 different activities. When you leave this workshop, this is what we hope will have happened. We hope first that you'll have a better understanding of the magnitude of the problem of suicidal ideation and behaviors. Second, we hope that we've stimulated your thinking regarding a variety of different suicide prevention strategies or programs. Third, we hope to have increased your knowledge of how you as a school psychologist can assess the risk of a student who has suicidal thoughts of engaging in suicidal behavior. Fourth, we hope to increase your knowledge of school protocols specifically designed for use by schools in terms of managing, responding to, assessing the risk of individual students for suicidal behavior. And finally, we'll conclude our time together. Our final goal in concluding our time together is to increase your knowledge of how to respond in the aftermath of suicide. And we feel that's real important because we need to acknowledge the reality, which is that despite the best of prevention efforts, unfortunately, some kids are going to slip through the cracks, and we are going to be dealing with completed suicide, unfortunately, at some point in all of our careers, if they're long enough. Okay, part 1, problem of suicide, an introduction to the magnitude of the problem. Here are some general youth suicide statistics. These are national statistics. And as you can see, suicide currently ranks as the 3rd leading cause of death among young people. This is ages 14 through 25. Any guesses as to the 1st leading cause of death? Accidents is number 1. And number 2? It's as sad as suicide. Homicide. So homicide is the 2nd leading cause. Suicide is the 3rd. And this goes from ages 14 all the way up to 25. Completed suicide, however, is remarkably rare. While in a long career, I think pretty much each and every one of us could expect to confront this unpleasant reality at some point, the fact of the matter is completed suicide is rare. However, other forms of suicidal ideation and behavior are not rare, as indicated by some of these other statistics. For example, from youth risk behavior surveillance, we know that 16.9% of high school students report having seriously considered suicide in the 12 months prior to responding to the survey. Perhaps more frightening is the 2.3% who indicate having made a suicide attempt that was so severe it required medical attention. And 1 to 200 attempts. There are 1 to 200 attempts for every completed suicide. This ratio is very different, by the way, in older adults, where, for example, with older men, the ratio is 1 to 4. 1 completed suicide for every 4 attempts for older men. What does that tell you, by the way, this ratio of 1 to 200 attempts for every completed suicide in the teen age groups? What does that tell you about adolescent suicidal behavior? Ambivalence, yes. I think that says a lot, speaks a lot to the ambivalence about living, their ambivalence about dying. Their impulsivity, I think, is another key. The young brain, the brain under 25, what do we know about the frontal lobes? They're not quite developed. I mean, the insurance companies have known this for quite a while, haven't they? As a father of 2 teenagers, I know that because we pay a lot more in insurance, and that's because at about age 25, frontal lobes develop and you're less impulsive.